Right. Greetings, everyone. Many thanks for signing on today. We have a lot in store for you today. My name is Janati Nachimera. I am the Vice Chair Programs of IEEE Entrepreneurship. I am based in Kampala, Uganda, and I'm also a member on the IEEE HSC Education Activities Committee, and I'll moderate the webinar today. And in today's webinar, we shall review the IEEE Learning Network courses developed for IEEE HAC sites. And we have some speakers who I'll introduce in a bit. And this webinar is hosted by IEEE Humanitarian Activities Committee, and I thank Juliana Picaldo for helping us set up this session. And for the participants, if you need to ask a question or if you have anything to share with us, you can use the chat. You can type it in the chat and we'll get back to you at a later at a later time during the session. So right now I'll go ahead and introduce the first speaker. The first speaker coming on is Paul Kostek. Paul is a long-serving volunteer and an IEEE senior member. He has served as IEEE President USA and as President IEEE Aerospace and Electronics Systems Society. He's the current chair of IEEE HSC Education Activities Committee, and he'll give a talk on the role of IEEE HSC in promoting further education through the ILN courses. So I'm going to share his slides, and you may begin, Paul, when you're ready.
All right, well, thank you, Janati, and hello to everyone that's out there. It's a pleasure to be with you today. What I'm going to do is give you a brief overview of what IEEE does in the education world. For many members, IEEE is a professional organization. They're active in student branches, sections, societies, other organizations. But IEEE has a very large presence in education. And our education realm really covers everything from pre-university through university and obviously continuing professional education for our members. So it's an important resource for you. Encourage you to go to the IEEE website and look at some of the activities, especially if you're doing work with students in the pre-K through 12, as we say here in the United States. That's elementary school through the high school. Obviously, a lot of work goes on in colleges. And obviously, for any professional, IEEE's education programs are an essential key to continuous learning. You can go to the next slide, please. As part of its activities to support what goes on in IEEE and education, the IEEE Learning Network, an online website, was created several years ago. What we've done there is create a whole realm of courses covering all of our 40-some societies and their areas of interest, things like 5G, smart grid. So if you're looking for an introductory course or a little bit more detailed information, the ILN is worth in checking out because it'll provide you some excellent resource and materials. Let's go to the next slide. And what the Humanitarian Activities Committee has assigned to the Education Committee to do is to develop programs to help people who are interested in either HAC related or site related projects to find material to help to do the planning. So we're in the process. There's several courses up there now that provide a curriculum on humanitarian activities, humanitarian technology, sustainable development, that if you're interested in doing a project, will help you to get a better understanding of what these types of projects are. And what we're also developing right now are courses that will help you to develop your projects, project management, those types of skills. It says 20 to 30 minutes to complete through the modules. It may take you a little bit longer than that, especially if you're seriously looking at doing a project. I'd encourage you to spend a little bit more time than that, but all of these are interactive in the sense that there are questions as part of each of these modules. So as you move your way through, you'll be able to gain better knowledge, maybe identify If you're doing a project, particular resources you'll need to work on that project, people with particular skills or experience. So we can go to the last slide, please. Okay, so this is a list of current programs that are out there, and I think if you are in a site group and you're looking at doing a project, I encourage you to go through these. It really can help you to understand how to put a project together. The ones that I think are some of the really important ones, Module 3, community engagement. This is an area sometimes we see problems on projects that people are so excited to do a project, they never really talk to the folks who will be the stakeholders for the project to find out what are they really looking for? What is the solution? So it's very important to do outreach to the community as you work on a project. So Module 3 is really important to look at. Module 6 is also very important. One of the key areas and problems that sometimes arise is projects are completed, but there is not necessarily an owner of the project when the project's completed. And if there's a problem with it, a repair is needed, there's really sometimes not an owner there. So it's again important as you work on a project for site to really understand what happens after the project is fielded, who's going to help maintain it and sustain it through its lifespan. We also have a new module that's coming along that will be addressing the whole question of how to do a successful project, how to put a plan together, schedule a budget. So there'll be additional courses coming along as we progress through this. And if anyone who's attending this has an idea for a course, please feel free to reach out and contact us. So with that, that's kind of gives you a good overview of what's going on within IEEE, within HAC, in terms of resources that are available for courses. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Janati.
Right. Thank you so much, Paul. Right. So yes, this is very insightful indeed. I do agree with you. The community engagement module really gives someone an idea on the kind of skills they need to work on a project and ensure that it's a success. Thank you very much for your talk. So I'll now move on to our next speaker. Just hold on a bit. Okay. Right, so we shall now move on to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Ugoma Deborah Ogu. She's a software developer and an experienced project engineer with over 10 years of experience. She's also a long-serving IEEE volunteer doing a lot of work in IEEE Nigeria section and is a member of the IEEE HSC Education Activities Committee. She will share with us her experience on taking an ILN course and how this has impacted her career. So Goma, you can take it away.
Okay, yeah, Janati, thank you everyone. Good afternoon. And it's a pleasure to be here and to also share my experience. Okay, some time ago when I started some of the community projects under the HSC, I had to take some of these courses. I actually took the courses and it was very, very helpful for me. I realized, just like Paul said, the third and the sixth are very, very important. You know, understanding what community engagement is, we recorded a huge success because I realized that if you're doing a project, you have to involve the people you are working with, you have to carry them along. And it's through learning how to go about community engagement that we're able to do that. Okay, what I did was after the training, I also had to train my team members who couldn't take up the courses, especially those who are volunteering with us. I had to pass on the knowledge to them and in the course of the planning of the project we did, and we had recorded a huge success. And then, of course, we know the SDG goals, sustainability is very, very important. So it's also through learning some of these courses, you understand the importance of sustainability and ensuring that there's continuity thereafter. And with the growth in a lot of number of IEEE members who are going to community development projects, I really encourage them to take up these courses. These are things we didn't learn in the four corners of the school, but as volunteers, we have the opportunity to have access to these open resources and information that will be very, very helpful. And for me as a project engineer, I've realized there are some things that are very, very important, like project assessment, evaluation, monitoring, and impact. Also understanding areas where you need improvements on, also understanding what you need to do thereafter, and some things, and taking up the lessons out of it. So it was through these courses I took and actually finished it. I went back, I had to go back to it severally to also, pick out some information. I didn't just take it once. I had to go back, make reference to it, and the learning continues. So I really encourage us to take up these courses and also to inform others, other volunteers. Currently, I'm the student branch activity chair in Nigeria. So I'm also encouraging our students, especially the student branches, to come on board and take up these courses. They need this information and knowledge. As long as they're going to volunteer and as long as they're going to make impact in their community, they need to be well informed to ensure that they take up their projects from start to finish and meet the expected goals. So it's important to also know that when you learn something, you pass it across to others, which is very, very important. It shows that knowledge keeps growing. I did that during the training of the volunteers for the project we did, and we recorded a very huge success. We actually exceeded our expectation during the project we did previously, all because we came in through the part of knowledge based, and we had to work on these areas that we wouldn't have done if we didn't know about any of them. So it's important, and I also appreciate the IEEE for bringing up these things and letting us know the impact of sustainability and how to go about a project the right way to meet the expected results and to achieve the goals. Yeah, thank you. That is it from me. And we also look out for the other courses that will be coming up as we keep volunteering and making impacts. IEEE. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Agoma. Very, very interesting to note. Okay, so from what you've learned today, we've learned about the different modules, the course modules that are developed, and there's more to come, as Paul has shared and Ugoma has shared her experience in relation to the impact of taking an HSC, an ILN course developed for HAC site. So I would like to know from you if you have any questions for the speakers, if you have anything that you'd like us to address at this point.
Hi, Jananthi, it's Juliana. Maybe while Ibrahim and Malia are thinking of any questions they have, I could ask a question to get us started. Could one of the speakers perhaps talk a little bit more about the benefit of the HAC site courses? Do they focus on technology topics, or do they focus on something else? And how could it benefit our potential volunteers?
For the most part, are not technical. What we're really trying to help people understand is, what does it mean to do a site or HAC type project? Especially depending on what part of the world they're coming from and how they're trying to reach into the communities. It was kind of my comments about the stakeholder side. Engineers understand the technology, that's never a problem. I think when we do these types of projects, we're doing something that's a little bit different, especially for students, where typically your customer as a student is your professor, who says, yes, you did good work, you matched whatever I told you to do for the course. Once you start moving into site projects where you have a community, maybe you're doing a project for a hospital or a school, you have a very different set of customers who may or may not be technology savvy. So the question isn't so much explaining to them what a microprocessor does or necessarily even how a solar panel works, but understanding what their needs are. And their needs may be, we want to keep our library open longer so that students have access to computers, books, an area to study. So it's understanding what the need is and being able to turn that into a project plan and then develop a project. And this is great skills for any student, especially because that's the real world. Once you go to work for someone, they aren't going to necessarily define the problem for you. Or, once you start sitting down with customers, you realize one thing: most of them have no clue what they want, or they have a vision of what they want. But the question of how long it takes to get there, what's the schedule, what's the cost? These ILM courses are really developed to help you to understand what does it take to do a project. And I think that's probably the most important thing. The technology side, this is really a great opportunity for people to apply the technical skills they're learning at university. Or if they're just a new grad and maybe just started a job, this is a great way to develop leadership skills that you may not get to do in industry for a few years. So I look at these courses less about the technology and more about the skills to put a project together and understand what it is that you're actually delivering to somebody. I think the one part of technology that plays into it is the question of sustainability. Can you design something that is easy to maintain, will run for several years, depending on what the stakeholders are looking for? That's probably the one part that's a little bit of technology, but a lot of this is really about the question of how do I organize a project? How do I get these things done?
Yes, thank you. And looks like
Okay.
Malia submitted a question about how can she volunteer for an HAC project?
I guess I'll start with the basic question for her is, where is she located, and is there an IEEE section there, and is there a site group there? Because many of these projects are coming out of the site activities, and that's the special interest group in humanitarian technology, just in case they're not familiar with site. So I would start there with the local IEEE section or a student branch. And I guess I'll leave it to maybe Janati and Yama to talk about what their experience was in getting involved in projects.
Okay, yeah, from my own experience, I think okay. You want to
No,
go
you can
on?
go ahead.
Yeah, go on.
You can go
Okay, yeah,
first.
from my
Fine.
experience, I think we need to also create some kind of synergy, especially in IEEE sections in different locations, and members also need to identify their section and work closely with them to, like for me as an example, during one of the projects, I had to identify IEEE members within my own section and within the location where the project will be taking place, and we worked with them. And some didn't know about IEEE HAC or anything or side group, nothing. They had no idea about it. But because I'm informed, I had to reach out to them and explain to them, this is what is on board. This is the project we are doing for this community. And I know you are within this area. Can you be a part of it? And they were willing to join. And that was how they got to know about it and all that. So I think some people are not so informed. Why? Those of us that are informed are in some of these sections and these groups, we also need to extend and reach out to others and then connect with them, put it up out there in our section groups and all that, meetings and all others we have, and then get them to volunteer. Like for us in Nigeria, we had a technical meeting over the weekend, and we got to know a whole lot of graduates members who were willing to volunteer. And today they are part of a project we are going to be executing, and that is how it comes up. They are not, some of the students and all that, they are not so informed, but we need to reach out to them. Also create an awareness. I think we also need to create more awareness about the IEEE side groups and all that. Let them know what it's all about. Most of them are not so informed, and we need to get them informed about it. That way, I think they will want to volunteer more. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Goma. Well, my experience is not so different from yours. I also got in touch with the different volunteers in Uganda section. Some were running projects and they had no idea about HAC or sites. And I got involved with them. I got to find out what they were doing, and I became a part of their team. And that way I got to learn, I got to work with a team, and I even got to learn about how to apply for a project. Eventually I applied for one and I got funding, and I was able to work on that at the beginning of the year. So that's it. There is another question from Maliha again. Some tips to get funding for HSC projects. Okay, first and foremost, you need to know when, usually there's a call for applicants. There's a call for applications, and you can write your proposal and submit, and then make sure that you follow the guidelines when you're writing that proposal to ensure that it can be selected. And when you do get feedback, because when you submit the proposal, you get feedback from the team that's looking at your proposal, you respond to those questions being asked, and that would increase your chances of being funded. If there's something else that Paul or Goma can add, they can go ahead.
I'll just add, I did a lot of reviewing last year of the HAC site COVID projects, and common things we found that caused concern was the objective or scope of the project wasn't well defined. And so that's a very important thing. Being able to clearly state what this project is about, what it's going to do, and I'll be back on my term again of who the stakeholders are. What are they going to receive from this particular project? Schedule is something a lot of us look at, and the question is always, is the schedule realistic? You know, especially if it's a student-related project, I always look at that and go, are you really thinking you can design and build a robot in 6 to 7 months while you're also going to school full-time and maybe doing other things? So it's a reality of looking at a schedule of saying, how are we going to really do this? Do you have enough people involved in the project with the right skills? And I think though, and then obviously the other thing we try to look to encourage is partnerships with NGOs or other organizations, so that it isn't just an IEEE driven project, but that you're also bringing in other people in the community. I think those are some of the important things that if you can clearly delineate those, you have a chance for having a successful project. You'll probably still have questions asked because we're engineers. We ask lots of questions. So whenever we review a proposal, there's always lots of things. And typically it's, especially our members from academia love to ask lots of questions about why would you do it this and how are you doing this? So it can work. Like I said, it's really just a question. And the ILN courses can help you a bit about just doing some project management type of things of budgeting, scheduling, and do you have the right people for the project? Anything else to offer, ladies?
Yeah, okay. I have one more thing to add. I think identifying a need, more like an important need. You know, some things are necessary, but an immediate need that will benefit a community or a group of people, and it's also part of the a criteria too. Something that is needful, that is very, very important at that point in time, is also one of the things you have to consider when you're putting in an application for funding for a HAC project. Yeah.
I don't see a question from the audience, so probably we can have last remarks from the speakers before we close. We can start with Paul.
Thanks again for those attending and watching this webinar today, and for the two of you for organizing it. I think the important thing here is we're building these ILN courses as a way to help people to enter into HAC site projects and make it a much easier process for people, give people a better understanding of why you're doing this project and some ways to make the process less painful for people, but also give people a better understanding the importance of these projects. So I would close with, this is a resource that we're going to continue to grow. We look for feedback from people to tell us things that we need to fix or things that we need to add. And thanks to everyone for their participation today.
Thank you, Paul. And thank you for sharing. So we can have Ugoma share last remarks.
Okay, yeah. One thing that is very, very important is knowledge is key. Knowledge is very, very important. And most of the things you learn taking these courses are also very, very applicable out there in every area, whatever you're doing, working on a project, working as a team, working on something. So it's just to get this knowledge that will be relevant for you, not just because you need to take the courses, but to see the impact and the importance it is for you. Like for me, I still have it relevant to me till date. So I think being able to understand that this is a kind of learning process which you are going to add to yourself will make it more interesting for you to take up these courses and then keep impacting. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for signing on today. And IEEE HSC Education Activities Committee is committed to furthering education and to give you the best courses possible. So please do reach us in case of any feedback you have on this webinar, this session, and any other further program that we have lined up. Thank you very much for signing on.